Well, let's return to the news that the latest figures on the economy show a slowdown. It is growing slower than most economists expected, and that is just a little under 2 weeks before the Chancellor is due to deliver her budget. We can speak to Dr. Steve Nolan, lecturer in economics at Liverpool John Moores University. Thank you very much for joining us on the programme, Steve. And so what tools does the Chancellor actually have at her disposal going into this budget to try to get the economy growing faster?
In many ways, she's kind of pulled a lot of the levers towards that in terms of thinking in the long term. The last budget she changed her fiscal rules and kind of deliberately kind of tied her hands so that money for long-term investment, which the country absolutely needs, has to be spent on that investment. In previous times, when a government was facing kind of pressure to balance the books and stuff, it was always kind of opportune to kind of borrow from the capital budget, the investment budget, to do that. The Chancellor doesn't have that lever to pull at the moment. So she's kind of in the problem in hopefully, in the long term, some of the policies that she's initiated about long-term investment will pay off and lead to growth. But in the short term, we're not seeing that really at all. We saw the figures kind of released today, which, whilst they are early figures, aren't painting a nice picture. We had kind of quite kind of frothy, spiky growth at the beginning of the year, and it seems to have tailed off a little bit. It was like kind of sprinting, and now at the end of the marathon, it seems to be running out of energy. So when it comes to the budget, the Chancellor's got and is spinning quite a lot of plates. She obviously has to think about how she pays for all the services that we demand as an economy and what she's going to do in terms of taxes. Yeah. So it's kind of a tricky thing to do.
And there's evidence of wages rising, but then people aren't actually spending that money that they have. Maybe they're looking at the unemployment rate, which is the highest it's been since early 2021. Maybe they are anticipating those manifesto-busting tax rises that the government has been hinting at. But that in itself is a problem for the Chancellor, isn't it? If she wants to get growth going, people have got to go out and spend their money, haven't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of this kind of comes from the lack of wiggle room she left herself in the previous budget, the technical terms, the headrooms of about £9 billion, which in historical terms is not really much at all. And as we've seen, that's been kind of wiped out and buffeted many times, but because of different reasons, like the cost of borrowing, but also kind of concerns about estimations that the Office for Budget Responsibility has on productivity. So one of the things that the government are signaling at the moment is they're going to give themselves a bigger buffer so that this kind of uncertainty and this kind of concern won't be kind of in the public discourse leading up to the budget. The idea would be taxes go up this time, you know they're up, and then we don't have to continually have the debate about it going forward.
Steve, I want to ask you about one more thing. We're nearly out of time, so briefly, if you would. The Chancellor herself referenced the cyber attack, a Jaguar Land Rover, and looking at the data, the overall output fell by 2% in September, mainly caused by that cyber attack. Obviously, that's the kind of event, the kind of headwind, I suppose, that many economists would say it's difficult for a government to kind of cover off when it comes to their predictions on growth.
Oh, absolutely.
Would you agree?
It's a kind of classic, kind of events that come into thing. But these are the kind of things that a modern government is going to have to think about, and a modern economy. Like, one of the questions around that was, what was Jaguar insured in the right way? So maybe there's a question for regulation to try and insure against these shocks as much as we possibly can.
OK, really good to talk to you, Dr. Steve Nolan from Liverpool John Moores University.